Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Sarah Lentz. I'm known as the academic entrepreneur, and I have a few special skills to share with you today. The idea is learning to leverage your degree. I know many of us are very disappointed in what our expectations might have been for why we earned our degree. We're not feeling that that's all it's cracked up to be. We had hoped for more with regard to whatever reasons we had earned our degree, whether it was an MBA, whether it was a doctorate. The idea is, what were we expecting? And now we have the ability to look at, how do we find a career? Because it's almost impossible sometimes, leaving many scholars feeling stuck and defeated. The purpose of this seminar today is to be able to look at how you can leverage your degree and find a career. We often are told the expectation for earning a degree in the first place is find a good company, get a W-2, look at all of the options that you have. And then we start doing this and realize that's not what we wanted. And Steve Farber has a wonderful opportunity. And his line says, do what you love in service of those who love what you do. And I think that's brilliant, because isn't that why we're here? Many of us spend 40, 50, 60 hours a week. We bought into the dream of being able to look at all of the education we have, but we didn't always get the tools and how to leverage that education. And what I mean by that is, many of us, the more degrees that you have, sometimes you obsolesce yourself right out of the marketplace. I remember when I was first earning my doctorate, and I had just graduated, and it was really an interesting situation at that time. Because I'd spent all this time and money. The company I was working with at the time had actually wanted to, or had paid for a third of it through tuition assistance. And the day before, I seemed to be okay. The day after, suddenly that doctor title changed the game. And now nobody wanted the doctor to work for them. I was presenting seminars and doing all kinds of things, and it made some people very uncomfortable because I was the only one with a doctorate degree. And so I learned a little bit quickly that some of us have that experience, that we had this expectation of the more education we had, the more options we might have going forward. And that's true, but they don't quite look as we expect them to look. And so my concern is, I hear from my students all the time, that they're not quite sure what to do with the degree once they have it, or while they're earning it. And so my point to the seminar today is to be able to have the opportunity to teach you some things on, well, what can I do with the degrees I have? And what do I do to help leverage my expectations and manage those expectations? And I teach you a couple of things today. One of those happens to be the idea of love in the boardroom, and in the operationalizing love in the corporate space. When we look at the idea of love, we think about it as personal relationships. We think about it perhaps in our church family, our immediate family, our spouse, our kids. We don't always think about that when we go to the boardroom, when we go to the office, because that's kind of a touchy-feely kind of a thing, right? And so we want to have that ability. What do we do with it? How do we leverage the ability of being able to have those feelings and love what we do? I know many people will have well, if you love what you do, the money will follow. If you have passion for what you do, the money will follow. That's true, but you have to do a few more steps in order to get that happen. You just can't have the passion. You have to create the opportunity sometimes. And it's the ability of, why did you earn your degree? The idea, if you get an MBA, if you get a DBA, if you're looking at options, what was the whole point? Many of us look at it, it's like, well, I don't know. I was told I did this, and the more options that I had, the better it would be to potentially get a degree. Maybe. Part of what we're looking at is the ability to figure out exactly how we want to do that and what it's going to look like. And a lot of my students are very disappointed because they look at the job descriptions of what's required, and it doesn't really bring them the joy, because sometimes they're looking for what to do, not a job description of what to do. So the question becomes, how do you find it? How do you take all of this time and money and investment of everything that we have done in our careers? And I have many degrees. As a matter of fact, there's going to be one more that's going to be on the wall here shortly, because I'm earning a second master's. But the idea, education and what you've done is not a waste. Education is an investment in the type of person that you have become as a result of the education, not just the content, but the process, the critical thinking skills. So let me teach you a few things to be able to figure out how to leverage what you know. The first one is to be able to look at certain skills that we already do in the boardroom, such as doing a SMART goals. SMART goals stand for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. These are simply ways of being able to categorize and crystallize and actually put a visceral experience behind writing down what we want. And many of us, we will have a vision statement, we will have a mission statement, we might even have an ethics standard for where we work, but we never take the time to do that personally. And I find that very interesting, the fact that the most important thing that we can do is to be able to decide what we want to do. And a lot of times when we don't get it or our expectations don't meet it, is we can go back to our goal setting going, let's think about this. I have a horrible sense of direction. And so if I don't put the exact address into the GPS is not going to take me to 540 Seminole Lane. It's going to take me somewhere. And many people simply get in the car and go. Well, if you want to end up to where you want to go, you've got to put in the GPS coordinates. And that's that S about specific. We have to be able to say, if you want to have a dream come true, you have to have a dream, and it's got to be specific. A funny dream that I had once is I want to go to the Plaza Hotel in New York. Well, apparently the universe thought I meant the Crown Plaza. And so I was there one year to earn an award. And I remember going, oh my gosh, I wanted to be in New York and I wanted to be at the Plaza. And I kind of got it right because I was at the Crown Plaza instead of the Plaza. And so that's the part where I must not have been terribly specific in the goals I was offering. But when you define your success and what it looks like to you, and you know exactly what to put in that box, and you know it's specific, and you put the content, and you put the date, and you put when you're expecting this. So if I want to have my TED Talk and I want to have it in a specific time, a specific stage, a specific year, write it down. Have your book of dreams, because the universe cannot bring you what you want if you don't know what you want. So that's the S. Measurable is, how do we know when we get it? How do we know how we're going to get it? For example, many of my students get a little overwhelmed, as many of us do. And we look at the enormity of trying to find a new job or a new career or a new opportunity. And we don't know how to measure that success. Sometimes it's measuring the success of going, well, this is a job I thought I wanted. And then I get to that job and I think, gee, if I only worked for 3M Corporation, if I only worked for IBM, if I only got that vice presidency, that everything would work out for me. And many times we will get to that level and realize we aren't happy. And this is the idea of leveraging your degree to find that career to do what you love in service of people who love what you do. But we also have to make sure that it's attainable. For those who want to teach, for example, there's a specific requirement of standards of teaching certifications, master's, doctorate, certifications, CEUs, things of that nature. And you're going to have those in attainment in order to be able to move to the goal. So if the goal is for teaching, for example, many of my students, you can teach once you earn your master's degree. But the challenge becomes when you earn your master's degree, oftentimes the schools and the universities you might be teaching for require that you have 2 years on your degree. And think about that. We want to have the ability to not just have the academic support, we want to have the results. I, as a business owner, have a 15-year business, and it has won 26 awards, and it has all of these accolades that go behind it. But it struggled initially. And it was something that I didn't know enough about some of the goals that I wanted and whether or not it was attainable. So you just kept doing it over and over and over, and to know that it was possible just by keeping showing up and having it be realistic. It's not realistic sometimes to start a business and automatically make $1 million. It's not perhaps realistic to graduate with your undergraduate degree and start making $100,000. It might not be realistic to earn that after a master's degree or even a doctorate. So the idea is we have to look at how to manage those expectations to make sure they're a realistic timeline going forward. And I want to make sure that you have those realistic expectations. I want to make sure that you understand what it means and what's possible. But be careful and not to take someone else's word for it. We want to make sure that maybe what we think is attainable, we don't want someone to dismiss our dreams, to have an opportunity to be able to say, but Cheryl, no one's ever done that before. Maybe, but does that mean that you have the ability to maybe be the first? The journey of 1,000 steps starts with the first one. And so some of us just need to have that courage to begin, to have the ability to look at, well, is this possible? Is the technology there? Is the foundation there? Is there a need? Part of what folks, for example, are starting their own business, I encourage it. But do we decide to start their own business because it's of interest to us or the interest to others? And we have to make sure that we look at that interest to others and ask specific questions about our realistic expectations. Is a business feasible? Do we have a solid business model? Is it something that's realistic? Do we have the funds to be able to stuff it? Can it be sustainable? Can we move forward? So a business is not just a good idea. A business has to be practical. It has to be feasible. We have to test it. And so many of us go through, but we don't quite have the foundation. And so part of the seminar is to look for that foundation and to be able to start writing down some of these SMART goals, as I'm suggesting, and to start doing our homework, to start doing our research. Because the idea is, I have a gentleman I'm working with right now, and he's like, but Doc C, I know that I can do this. I know there's a need for this. But is it time yet? That's the T in SMART goals. We have to be able to look at, well, do we have the funding? Do we have the ability to get the funding? Most people need more funding than they need and more time to get the funding that they need. It's something that takes some time, and I don't think we're very realistic about the expectations. We think that once we have an idea, we can get it fruition, and 6 months later, we'll be a millionaire. The idea, it doesn't always happen that quickly. I know we hear the stories of those who became an overnight success, but many of those overnight successes took a whole lot more time than you're hearing the backstory. And so I want to make sure that this leads into, as you're defining your success and goals, to be able to look at your strengths and to do what's called a SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So you have to take a kind of an assessment, a reflection. We do a lot of these exercises in school quite a bit. And you want to be able to look at, well, what do I do well? Many business mentors will tell you, do what you do well and outsource what you don't. Not bad advice. Depends if your budgets can sustain that. But we have to be able to have a realistic R of what we do, what we don't do well, how we can look at what's coming and to test it and to have a realistic. Many of us, myself included, jumped into a business because I felt I could do it better. My business started as a result of, that's the way we've always done it. And I was taught during my doctoral program that it was very inspirational to find a problem that nobody wants to tackle and fix it. And so that's the way we've always done it was a marker for that. The ability to say, yeah, everybody just accepts the status quo. We don't like it. We're going to whine about it. We're going to complain about it, but we're not going to do anything about it. And that's a wonderful opportunity when you start hearing as part of your analysis, what are the opportunities? The opportunities may be to do what others are not willing to do. And that opportunity could very well be that market for your business. And so when you do this SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, you can take an assessment of what is going on currently. Do your homework, do a feasibility stuff, test the waters, talk to your friends, neighbors, countrymen, and find out, well, if I started a business, would you buy from me? Is there a need for this? When you're in marketing, for example, there's only two options in marketing. Either you build a need or you fulfill a need or you expand a need. So you're looking at, here's what it is. You're going to either do something that's already, we know that we need computers. We know that we need digital. We know that we need cell phones. Those are established businesses. We already knew that. But when you're looking at what might be a possibility, you have to look at, is there a market? Just because you have a great idea and you would buy something like that, or is there more than just you? So this is part of what that analysis looks at. So a lot of my students are like, but I've got a great idea. I know you do. The question is, do people need what you're offering? Think of the problem that you solve and the benefit that you solve for that problem. there becomes your strength, your weakness, your opportunity, and your threat. So that's your second opportunity here for looking at things that I can do right now to help leverage my degree. What are the strengths of my degree? What are my personal strengths? What do I do well? What do I like to do? Many of us, for example, when you're a business owner, particularly in the beginning, you have to do it all. And you may not be good at all of it. I know I'm a wonderful leader. I am a terrible manager. And part of that is because I don't like doing repetitive things. Manager is maintaining the status quo, doing the same thing over and over. If you're going to make 100 widgets today, you're going to do 100 widgets tomorrow, et cetera, et cetera. The leader asks, should we be making those widgets? Should we be making different widgets? Should we be making 97 instead of 103? We ask questions, and there's a strategic part. A manager looks at, I know my marching orders. I've got my mission. I've got my vision. I know exactly what I'm supposed to do, how often I'm supposed to do it. And here's the system for doing it. And so I want you to look at that because many of us, again, pay lip service to this. How many of you raise your hand? I know it. I've been there. Is that we all do this at work. We all do this in those human resource seminars we go to. We all do this in our classes because our teacher makes us. But we don't always take the time to do it for ourselves. And so when I sat one year when I was an undergrad, I did my personal mission statement. I did my SMART goals. I did my SWOT analysis. And I was really surprised because a lot of this is, what do we do when no one's looking? What do we do when, yeah. I'm going to do this, Doxy. I'm going to do this, Doxy. And then we don't. We often think that we're going to solve world hunger. We don't have to solve world hunger. All we have to do is make a sandwich in our corner of the world. And these are the tools we can use to help leverage our degrees so that we know what kind of sandwich to make. So here's something to think about. For those of you who want to change careers, for those of you who want to find out about other careers, which might be safer. Some of us aren't courageous to be able to quit our jobs instantaneously, or if we might have been fired, that forced compliance might have been there for us. But we want to be able to explore other things. And how do we do that so we can leverage our degree and figure out what we want? Well, we need to go talk to people. And there's a technique called informational interviewing. And this is a wonderful opportunity to be able to find someone whose job you think you want and go talk to them. Invite them out for lunch, invite them out for coffee, ask them how they got to where they are. What kind of degrees did they have? What kind of certifications did they have? How did they get their path to where they have right now? And do they like it? Is this something that they can tell you about? Everybody loves to talk about themselves. Even the introverts in the world will tell you about their jobs and how they got there and where they went to school. And then ask them for the advice. If you had any pieces of advice, I get this asked all the time when I'm on the radio and TV. What's the piece of advice that you can give to somebody who wants to become XYZ, who wants to become a college professor, who wants to become a TEDx speaker, who wants to be able to own their own business? Any of the things that I've done, go ask someone who's done them. Because this is the one thing we often think we have to do is we reinvent the wheel. The wheel's already invented. Let me help you invent that wheel, or to review the wheels that are invented. Go talk to somebody. Again, go talk to somebody in HR. If you want to get promoted, go talk to the person who has the job that you are thinking of promoting to. If you want to start in a new industry, go talk to people in those industries. Go hang out at conferences. Volunteer your time. That's also a fabulous way because there's not a big financial commitment. We can also do internships, both paid and unpaid. I did something that was really amazing for something I thought I wanted. However, I was very frustrated because I couldn't find what I wanted. Once I finally did, I did this wonderful internship, but I was really struggling because what I thought the job wasn't what the job was. And so I spent 6 weeks going, oh, well, now, not what I thought it would be, not something I wanted to do. And so therefore I only invested 6 weeks of my time, not 6 years, not 6 decades. Many of us feel that we get pigeonholed into a specific line of work. We get the ability to decide, here's what we want to do. And we think we want to do it. But many of us don't try before we buy. And that's the benefit of having an internship. You get to put your toe in the water. Maybe it's paid, maybe it isn't, maybe it's 6 weeks, maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's a year. But now you have the ability to know firsthand. Remember, we have 3 learning styles: auditory, we have to think, we have to hear; visual, we're going to see; or experiential, we have to do. These are the things, the experiential, we often leave out. Reading it in a book, reading it in a job description, talking to someone in HR is not the same thing as getting your hands dirty. So why don't you get in there? Go ahead and talk to somebody that's doing in there. See if you can spend a day with them, spend a few months with them in an internship. Volunteer your time for an organization. Many people decide they love where they're going. They love the people they do it with, and they decide to stay. But this is a very low price of admission to be able to offer an opportunity so that you can go play a little bit, go see, take a risk. But don't risk your family while you're doing it, because I know many people say, man, I want to be that painter. I want to be that artist. For me, it was, I want to be that musician. I want to go and see the world, and I want to travel and get paid for it. Sometimes we can make those things happen, but it takes a lot of hard work, a lot of foresight, and a lot of planning. And you're going to hear the cliches all the time, so let's just get them out there. Most people don't plan to fail, they just fail to plan. So let's get that plan out there. Let's put those SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. Let's do that SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Let's look at these informational interviews. Find people who are ahead of you in the process. Many people are not above you or below you, they're just ahead of you. So ask them. So much easier to follow and go forward than it is to blaze a trail all by yourself. Again, don't reinvent that wheel. Let's go and do a little homework. Let's watch people. Let's invite them out for lunch, invite them out for coffee. Have them tell you about their career. Ask them if you could spend a day with them, a week with them, 6 months with them, an internship with them. There are all kinds of opportunities we don't always think of. And the more you can do, quite frankly, is to watch. Observation's a powerful tool. When you are looking, it's like, well, I am just so unhappy. Okay, let's deconstruct that. Why are you unhappy? What part of your job makes you unhappy? Very few of us get a job that we like all of the time because of all the things we do. Maybe we like it about 90% of the time. When you start liking it less and less, really dial into a self-reflection. That's another assessment tool. Take stock of where you are. Take stock of what you like to do. Take stock of why your job just doesn't get you up in the morning. It doesn't give you that zip. It doesn't get you out of bed. It doesn't go, wow, I get to do this and go to work today. Yay. Instead, it's like, yeah, I have to go to work today. Also, we look at the opportunities of what are the benefits that you do. For some of us, working at home is a benefit to stay with our loved ones, stay with our animals, stay with our elderly parents, or we're a caregiver or a guardian. And so the online convenience might give us something, but it takes away a little bit of the social aspect of it. For those who are extroverts, Zoom has been difficult. Myself, just sitting in this little box and not having as much interaction as I'd like, it was a difficult opportunity for me all the time. I spent a lot of time in supplementing that, getting out of the office, having a social network that I have created. And this is another important part here. When you're looking at defining success, when you're looking at your goals, you have an idea of what you want and how you're going to get there, this plan. Because these SMART goals aren't enough if we don't have the idea, what are we going to do to get there and to take action? A lot of my students, we struggle about teaching things in class, all those fancy degrees. I can teach you what leadership is. There's 65 kinds. I can teach you what management is. I can teach you what ethical theories are and a lot of other fancy tricks I have in my toolbox. The question is, if you don't use them, all these suggestions that I'm giving you, the informational interview, talking to HR, internships, volunteering, if you don't take one of those ideas and you don't do it and take action, you're not going to be any further ahead today than you were last week or last year. Many people talk about doing things, but they don't make a plan for doing things. I'll give you an example. Many people want to write that first book, and they've been working on writing that first book for 10 years. I've written 52. Are they all that good? Probably not. But the idea is taking action, is following up and following through, because my goal was to be a published author. And now I found I love to write and I love to edit. And I wrote down all those skills that I have. And I love to speak and I love to do these seminars and I love to work with my students and talk them off a ledge when they get overwhelmed and when they get frustrated. That's not easy when you're trying to seek a new path. You had thought that your MBA, you get all of this time and money and investment and graduation, and then you get there and you find out, oh, not what I expected, not what I wanted. So here's a way to play this. If you need to play it safe, I did, is I started my business while I had a full-time job. It's a great way of being able to put your toe in the water, do these things on a part-time basis without risking your financial security, without putting your family risk or your family's financial future. And I did that for several years. The IRS expect you to turn a profit in about 3 years. So you've got about 3 years to see if your hobby, your passion, your interest is actually a sustainable business model. But don't keep it a secret. Go and ask people. Would they use your product or service? Is it a problem that you solve that will give them an opportunity to make their job and their life a little bit easier? That's really what we're looking to do, is to serve. The question is, can we make a business out of it? And so I want to be able to make sure when you look at some of these things, we look at the opportunity of what's out there, what's available, but you got to do your homework. You got to take action. Your helping hand is here, right at the end of your wrist. And so now we're going to move into learn what you should be doing next. Hopefully, if you signed up for the seminar, you have my rule of 3. I use this with my students for the last 22 years. This is how I've been able to attain a lot of the things that I've done. I didn't do them all in 1 year. I could not possibly, with the budgets that I have, the time that I have, the time that was needed to accomplish some of these things. It really is do 3 things a year to position yourself in it as an expert. Oftentimes I do more, but the minimum is 3. And the idea is looking at, how am I going to get my message out? What is it that I want to do? And the first one in your rule of 3, you look at present at a conference, present at a symposium, do a poster session, go and do a training at your company, do a lunch and learn that you have, go volunteer to do a seminar at the local YMCA or the nonprofit group. Anywhere that there's a need, I guarantee you there's somewhere that you can have the ability to talk to people. Many universities and associations host annual and biannual conferences, symposiums, seminars, workshops. A lot of the job seminars that they have now at the community colleges or at some of the job recruitment centers and things, there are opportunities to present. Just don't think you have to be in front of 100,000 people. It could be that one person, because one of the things we want to also talk about is the power within the rule of 3 of networking. How do you get to all these places? You open your mouth, you ask, you talk to people. You are very focused. Instead of handing out your business card when you go to an event, get to know some people. Go deep, not wide. Don't try and see if you can be the one that collects all the business cards. Go see if you can make 3 meaningful contacts. Get to know what they do, how they do it. Offer to make a next appointment right there. Ask them to lunch, ask them to coffee. Find out a little bit about what they do and ask them if they have opportunities to position yourself as an expert. Volunteer. People volunteer at the Boys and Girls Club. A friend of mine volunteers at the hospital every Wednesday. I volunteer at the USO since 1993 because I was a former military wife. Now you look at all of these other things that are going. If you have a passion for March Madness, volunteer for a tournament. There's always something that you can do, and everyone's always looking for help. Open your mouth, put your hand up, offer to do something, but take action. If you want to position yourself as an expert, publish a book. Many people put things out on Amazon, whether you self-publish, whether you find a top-tier publisher, an independent publisher like we are, you have the ability to, instead of a business card, give them a book. Share your expertise, share your wisdom, share your experiences. Put that pen to paper. You need help publishing a book? You can hire a ghostwriter. You can hire a writing coach. Many publishers offer those services in there. But the idea is to help leverage your background. In order to leverage it, you need to have something to leverage. Publishing a book is a wonderful idea. It doesn't have to be a long book. It can be just an ebook if you want. Many of my 52 publications, I've got a couple that are ebooks only. I don't always publish as an academic. I've published one book for COVID, Bricks and Clicks. We put together a compilation for many authors who came together in a very quick thing from the time that COVID turned all universities on Friday to online by Monday. We wanted to help. So we put a book together very, very quickly with the expertise of everybody we could find that could get something to me by Saturday afternoon. We put it in a book and that was there Monday morning. I've published books for rescue organizations, Siberian Husky Rescue. I had a very difficult husky, Gracie. She stayed a puppy till she was 4 years old. She was fantastic to write a book about. Most difficult husky ever. And now a lot of the rescue groups use this as an informational training tool and a fundraising tool. And it gives me the credibility of being able to expand all of the things that I can publish in my repertoire. A year and a half ago, I published my first children's book. What did I know about children's books? It took me a year to learn. I talked to children's book conferences. I talked to children's book authors. I put pen to paper. Many of us are afraid of failure. And let's just put that out there as well. What if my book's not good enough? That may very well be the case, but how are you going to know? You can't score if you don't shoot. You have to take your shot. And by putting it out there, you're taking a risk. And that's part of leveraging your degree. Oftentimes, we're not afraid of the failures. We're afraid of the successes. So let's go see what kind of success that you have. The rule of 3 applies to many things. You could publish in a journal or a magazine. I have 8 or 9 different peer-reviewed journals. That's my academic side. I publish quite a bit with our own peer-reviewed journal, The Refractive Thinker. That's our point. It has 24 awards to go with it. You want to become part of your professional community by contributing to the conversations in your field. It could be officially through that peer-reviewed magazine. It could be a journal. It could be on LinkedIn. It could be a blog on Facebook. It could be your own blog just on the internet. What do you have to say that others might need to hear? Again, become part of your professional community to be able to look at it. And it's always just the rule of 3. Don't solve world hunger. Just make a sandwich. Try to do one at all of these once a year. Present at one university conference. It might cost you just a little bit of money. Might take you 6 months to present an abstract, be accepted, do your presentation, and then sometimes you even get a book out of the conference. It's kind of what I call a 2-for-1. Sometimes you can go internationally. Sometimes your university, whether you're as an alumni or as faculty or administration, they might be able to give you a stipend or a volunteer opportunity to help defray some of those costs. So the rule of 3 can be very powerful, but you can do 3 things a year to position yourself as an expert. Again, the rule of 3 here is present at a conference, publish a book, publish in a journal. One of the journals that I publish in every year, it's an Italian magazine. And it's one of those magazines online. I've been doing it for several years. I co-author a lot of things with a lot of people. And it just expands your depth, your reach. But it gives me the ability to get my message out, do podcasts, do Zoom lives, go to these seminars. I'm learning a lot about Clubhouse that's going on right now and being able to set yourself up, but go meet people. Go look at a room, because we often think we can't do what others have already done. Let's go watch them. Let's go watch them. Because you first have to have a dream to know how to make your dream come true. Then you have to have a plan to make that dream and that dream path come to fruition for you. So I hope that we're looking at some of the opportunities today that will give you some ideas, that will give you the ability to say, I can do that. And you don't have to solve world hunger. You don't have to swallow the elephant whole. But if you just put it into manageable bites. When I have conference calls with my students and my clients, they're often overwhelmed. They don't know what to do next. It's easier if you can find people, and that's our last topic for today, is to be able to look at See examples from people who've done it. Because if one person can do it, it makes it possible for all of us. Do you want to have your own seminar? Go to seminars. See what other people do. Know how to create them, how to structure them, how to promote them. You want to speak at a conference? Go look at these conferences. Whether it's, I go to a conference every year called Secret Knock in California. I think I've been there like 9 times. One of my favorite. Now I'm part of the tribe because I keep showing up over and over. They have new speakers, new opportunities, and I'm able to be part of the inner circle, and it's wonderful. But it's effort on my part, consistent effort, not just one and done. I went to one seminar, it didn't work for me, and I stopped. Okay, what are you going to do next? Let's go talk to a coach or a mentor. Again, informational interview. If you want to be a TV mogul, go talk to the top TV mogul. You want to write a book, go talk to somebody who's written a book or lots of books. You want to publish a book, go talk to a publisher. There's so many options right now. You need to do your homework. And hear this, hands, your helping hands at the end of your wrist. I want to be able to help you take action. If you need to know what action to take, let's have a conference call. Jump on a call with me and we can talk further. I'd love to have the ability to, what are you going to do next conversation? Because I can give you all the tools in the toolbox and we can decide what tools work best for you. Remember, the most effective tool for the most effective outcome. Everybody has a toolbox, but sometimes we don't have all the tools. Particularly for me, I am not a handy woman. I have learned by owning my own house for so many years that every time something happens or my handyman comes over, we add another tool in my toolbox. Now I can not just identify what they are, not only tell you what they can do, but I use them. I can do interesting things with fixing things around the house now that I could never do before. Why? I'd never tried. And so here's what I wish for you. I put some information in the chat. My email address is there. It's Dr. Cheryl Lentz, drcherylentz.com. So there's my Gmail address. And we're going to put my website, drcherylentz.com. And we'll post a copy of this video. So if you want to watch it again, that'll be wonderful. We will have the ability to jump on a call. If you saw the website, you have another link to be able to schedule some time with me. Let's just kind of kick it around. Sometimes you need somebody just to bounce ideas off of, to be able to think, going, well, I don't know what to do. It's like, I will bet you know more than you think. That you'll have, but I've always wanted to. Now we're getting somewhere. What have you always wanted to do? Why? What stopped you? What can you do about it? Here's the thing that I have, and I'll leave you with a couple of words of wisdom as I close out our seminar for today. Talk to people who've done it. I guarantee you, if you want to ride a horse, go find a horse rider. You want to talk to a publisher, call me. Happy to share with you all the books that I have done in so many different genres. But you have to be willing to open your mouth and ask. Nobody knows everything, but we do have the wonderful ability to give you our advice on how we've arrived where we have. And why should you have to do this? I didn't do any of this until I earned my doctorate. I waited to publish all my books because I wanted that doctor title. I wanted that credibility. And so I started, and now 15 years later, I have an amazing library of things, but I had to start with the first one. And that's my point. Many people are afraid of starting with the first one. So we have the rule of 3. We have all the different strategies and tools in the toolbox I've offered you. I want you to do one thing. Schedule a call with me. We'll put together a game plan for you. We'll get to you what to do next in how to leverage your expertise so you can get the job that you want or the opportunity that you want. Let's not limit this. A lot of people always think that the only option is a W-2. You can start your own business. You can go in partnership with others. You can go around the world and do things like the Peace Corps or volunteer. There are a variety of resources, but the first opportunity, the first step of this journey starts with you. You've got to take action. There's nothing worse than having an I love me wall that's never seen the light of day. Take it for a walk. Show the world what you can do. If you're in your MBA, let's put some mileage on that. Let's show, because a lot of employers now, here's another wonderful piece of advice. A lot of employers want to have the ability to have proof of your accomplishments. A resume or a curriculum vitae, that's the educational resume if you want to teach, it's not enough just to put things you've want to do or describe things you've done. If you got to put the action, here's what I did, here's what I accomplished, here's the money I saved, here's the millions I diverted, here are the, I mean, specific and tangible things that if they're looking for someone to do a new program, you can say, yeah, well, I've started 10 programs already, and I've been doing that since 1985. Yay. The languaging is important. Many of my students, for example, never think they're a leader. Oh, no, I haven't been a leader yet. If you're a parent, you're a leader. If you have one person following you, be it a child, be it a colleague, be it somebody at work, you're a leader. A leader is not a noun. It's not something that is a job description or a job title. It's an action. You got to step up. So why don't you jump on a call with me? You'll see the information in my calendar. I'll put my cell phone in there. It's personal, it rings right to me. It is a Vegas number. I am local to Illinois right now, but here it is. That's the cell phone. And that'll give you the ability to connect with me. There's nothing more frustrating when you're spinning your wheels. Nothing more frustrating when you've graduated and you finally have the MBA, you finally have the PhD, and then you don't know what to do with it. And you spend all this time and money, maybe law school. Maybe you earned a certificate and you got all excited. And I remember going, oh my gosh, I'm finally done. Now what? That's an interesting question to ask. Let's see if we can't get some of those answers so we can put a plan in place for you. But that starts with you picking up the phone, booking a calendar, finding a mentor, taking an action, one thing out of something that I've shared with you today. If you want to get in touch with me, it's Dr. Cheryl Lentz at drcherylentz.com, drcherylentz@gmail.com, and my email or my phone number is 702-719-9214. It's a Vegas number. I promise you I'm not selling timeshares, but I do a lot of consulting work, a lot of writing work, a lot of teaching work. But my goal is really to help you find where you're supposed to be and to help you use all of the assets, such as the degrees, to leverage them to position yourself as an expert in the marketplace. Thank you so much for attending today's seminar. It's absolutely wonderful to see you. I look forward to meeting you. I look forward to our time together. And I look forward to, most of all, knowing what you're going to do so I can see a year from now that you took action, that you changed your world by taking the first step. I'm Dr. Cheryl Lentz. Enjoy your journey. And if you need a little help, you know where to find me. Take good care. Bye-bye.